Hi, everybody. Welcome to Rewind and Reflect, where we believe in the universal truth that nothing happens by mistake and there are no such thing as coincidences. And we are here to share our life story with you all. My name is Deb Miller.
Hi, everybody. I'm Susan Doyle. Hey, Deb, how are you today?
Very good, very good. How are you
You have a
doing?
sweatshirt on, so is it chilly
Well, I
there?
had a tank top
Mhm.
on and then it's not, it's gonna be 80 and sunny here. Very nice. I know, I know. But
I
it just
woke up
got
this
a little
morning.
chill
It's
inside.
it's
Hmm?
April 11th. I woke up this morning and there is snow
Oh
on my
no,
deck.
really? Oh boy.
This is just cruel and unusual punishment.
Yeah, it's been a long winter for you guys. I
Hmm
know. But the door's always open here. Come on down.
I know. I have to. I really do. I just need to warm my bones. I need a couple of teaser days here to make it through till when it's actually, you know what? One day we're gonna wake up, it's gonna be 90.
Right.
And like there'll be no spring and we'll be right in the middle of summer, which is fine with me.
I know.
Um, yeah.
I know.
So I have to tell you a little story. So I was last night, so I teach, I teach group exercise. And so this morning I taught a spinning class, but last night, so the people have to sign up because there's like a finite number of bikes. You can't just show up and like go
Yeah.
into fisticuffs with somebody for a bike, right?
Well, you
So
could, but we
you
discourage
could,
that. I
and I've seen it, but I tried to, not
diffuse
encourage behavior like
Right.
that.
I hear you.
So I went on last night and I always send like a little message to the class to like, listen, if you're not gonna come, please take your name off because there's always a waiting list. So I went on yesterday. There was 9 people on the waiting list.
Whoa.
9. I was
Whoa.
like, oh my God. And then I got into class this morning and I have to tell you, there's a woman in my class who she will not divulge her age, but rumor has it she's like 91 or 92.
Aw.
Comes with like the nails done, she's got her hair done. And last week she said, I was like, I always take requests, like if you guys have anything you want me to play. So she whispers in my ear that she wants YMCA and she wants Livin' La Vida Loca.
Oh, I love
I'm
her.
like, done, sister, done. So I put together this playlist last night and I come into class and just the energy. And I have this playlist queued up that made this woman so happy. And at the end of the class, I just had to say, I said, listen, like, I don't, I just need to say this. I said, I really believe in universal signs. I said, and I just feel that I have gotten a sign last night and today that I am exactly where I need to be. And I
Mm,
just said, I just thank you all for welcoming me into your community and and
mm,
I just can't imagine starting my day without you guys.
right.
Great. It was great. It was great.
Okay, well, I'm going to add to that, like, again, you and I could not be different in so many ways. But I got a text from you at some ungodly hour this morning asking about a job that I had or have coming up. And I was like, what the hell? I mean, it's still dark out and you're like up, you're like, yeah, let's ride a bike and play some
Let's
music.
go.
And I'm just like, I can't, it's still dark out. It might as well, be 11.
2 a.m.
I'm
Yeah.
not, or I'm
By the
not,
way, I think it was like 6:30. It wasn't
yeah, it
anything
was,
like ungodly.
oh, that's pretty, yes. And not only to get up that early, but to go exercise. Oh,
Mm,
sister, please.
mm.
Even. I just can't even. But God bless you for doing it and feeling
Yeah, I
good.
am just, I am so grateful to have 38 years under almost no 39, good God,
Holy
under
moly.
my belt and still like just have this feeling, like just this feeling that I am still doing what I was, God put me on this earth to do.
Well, yeah, and just helping so many people, which
Yeah.
have such a beautiful purpose. It's especially during these times of such instability and just awfulness that, we're going through.
I know
I'm
it's
glad that
just
they
a
have
crazy
outlet.
world. But
Yeah.
it's funny because, so I'm sure the listener at this point knows that, you and I sit and we chit chat for just a little bit in the beginning to just kind of bounce around ideas and things like that. And, you know, I have made it a point constantly from the time that first of all, when I started teaching almost 40 years ago, like the world was not like this at all.
Mhm. Mhm.
It was much simpler, much quieter. The vibration was lower. People were not as angry and things like that. But I always felt like, listen, I need to give somebody whatever they need for this hour, whether it's fun, whether it's a laugh, whether it's just silence, whether it's something, a concept to kind of chew on. And I'm happy to continue to be able to do that. But we were talking a little bit in the beginning of before we, hit record, and um, it's getting, I think, harder and harder to do that um, for myself. I
Mhm.
know how to provide it for other people, right? I just have to give them an experience. Um, but I think, we were talking a little bit about should I use that platform? Or do I just sort of pretend that, quote unquote, pretend that the world isn't the way it is? And, I think, for me, being quiet um, does not equal complacency, but I do know that people believe that.
Yeah.
believe that, and it's hard. It's a hard balance, because on the one hand you feel as though, to me anyway, I feel if I am really really steadfast in a belief and or a wrong, is should I use my voice to try and right the wrong? And and it's getting more difficult to strike that balance. But I do believe that there's things that I can control and things that I can't control, and I work very hard. I've been working very hard lately with other things going on, that the only thing I can do is control my reaction to it. And by being quiet doesn't, for me, does not equal that I don't care. I just need to control my environment, and I know that by being loud I feel out of control.
Mhm.
How about you? What are you feeling lately?
Same. I've been hearing a lot of around me about people saying like if you're quiet, you're being complacent and you're letting this all happen. And so I too could do a couple things that kind of strike me about that. My I have to protect my own serenity and my own peace of mind and my own spirit. And my spirit is not a fighting spirit. It's not. My spirit, and some people's spirits are. I mean, and that's great. They're like, a fiery spirit inside of them. My spirit guides, my higher self is just not like that. And I've never been like that. So I need to protect that by not opening a door, not sharing my opinion with others that will may open a portal to hostility, because that's not getting me anywhere and that's not getting anything anywhere. Okay. So what I do is I take what I have and I take what I am skilled at, I'll say, and use that to help the situation. For instance, I have friends that have transgender. I have a couple friends that have transgender children, and they're either in the process or they have already been, they've already switched identities, sexual identities. So, and they're really scared and really nervous, and the parents are really sad because they feel like their children are being forced into living uncomfortably in their skin because it's not really who they are. So what I can do for them is be supportive of them and listen and just, help them as much as I can. My nonprofit clients, they're scared to death as well. So what can I do for them? We can strategize. I can help them to figure out next moves, next, fundraisers, next, community gatherings, help them to be in a community with other nonprofits who are suffering the same concerns and financial issues. So there's all sorts of things like that that I can do within my circle of control.
Hmm.
Because the minute I step out of my circle of control and I step into this the realm of uncertainty and other objects coming into the circle, I, I can't help anybody because it just turns very angry. And I was listening. So yesterday I was at the beauty parlor and um I like to sit quietly during that time just because somebody like touching my head is just
Oh, isn't that the
feels so
best?
good. So I just like sit quietly. But there's other stylists there that are talking to their clients, and there was one who was just very vocal about where she stands politically. And I thought, man, you are in dangerous territory because if that person that's you're cutting their hair it does disagrees, you're going to lose a client and who knows, but she kept saying over and over again, I feel like I have the opportunity to speak to many, many people in this job, and I need to tell them, that you can't sit by and let this happen and blah, blah, blah. And I just thought to myself, maybe that's what her calling is. And maybe her higher power is saying, you need to use this. But I don't think any good will come from me like opening that up because people are so angry.
Yeah, it's funny. It's sometimes, when you're speaking about that, there's times where my feeling is with a position or a profession like that, more people have to be Switzerland
Yeah.
in the sense that the person in the chair, so to speak, for example, they're it's their time. Right. It's just like when I'm teaching in class, it's my students' time. Just like when you're, talking at a meeting or,
Doing step work with somebody, it's their
doing
time to
step
share.
work, it's
Yeah.
their time. It's not, and it's funny because, when you're talking about, your quiet spirit, I think I intrinsically, it's interesting, people are going to laugh that I have a very quiet spirit, a very quiet vibration, but I am very opinionated. My husband points that out to me all the time. He's like,
But are
I
you
can't believe you've never been punched in the face. And I'm like, okay, but I don't go spouting my opinion for people like that don't ask. If somebody asks me, you know, how do you feel about this or what is your opinion? I have very steadfast, strong opinions.
Mhm,
That um and I also have a very strong, steadfast moral compass,
mhm,
right? But I don't share that with people. But it keeps me living into a larger purpose.
mhm,
Correct, but I don't feel like I have to go to the top of the mountain and shout it to everybody.
mhm.
And I think that's really sort of where we are in this conversation is when do you hold them, and when do you shout it out? And I think it's individual, but what I feel is going on is when people do that, when they feel the need to do that, they are delivering it in such a way
Yeah.
that on in the environment that we're in today, it's either right or wrong. There's people who do not, I live in the gray area. Let's put it that way. And
Yeah.
so I think that there's people who, like we no longer um relish in the gray area. We no longer listen to people and say, huh, maybe there's something to that or not. It's
Right.
you're right, I'm right, you're wrong, or
Yeah.
vice versa. And it's very, and I think by staying quiet or only sharing when asked,
Mhm.
to me is allowing people to see, like, what, we all have our own opinion. We all have our own opinions. I am
Yeah.
not put on this planet for you to see that I am right and you're wrong.
Mhm.
I mean, how do you,
Yeah.
and that's how I feel that the landscape is so black and white that when we were growing up, it was all gray.
Yeah. It's I totally agree with you. And here's I'm very independent. I'm in it. Like I know there's good and bad happening, okay? But
Mm-hmm.
I also know like it's the pendulum that's swinging, and right now it's just like
Mm-hmm.
there are things that need to be fixed in this country. There's no doubt about it, and it has for a long time. But there's also so I recognize that, but I also am very um I'm very conscious of the people that are being hurt.
Correct. I agree with that.
And
But
so I am never going to be the one to shout from mountaintops. I'm going to be the one that will gather the people around me and pray or do something that's going to fill their spiritual bucket. Just like when
mm-hmm.
you are, doing your yoga class and they're in there and they just want to forget about their life for an hour and you're just infusing them with spirituality,
Correct.
and it's like what a gift it is to them. And my I can help women who are in recovery or nonprofit, small nonprofits, and give them some tools to try to get through it. But I am one of those people that I've met people who are maybe on a little bit more conservative than I am. And I've flat out said to them, can we just have a conversation? Like, I want to know what you're seeing and what you're hearing and what you're feeling outside of the media, feeding us
Correct.
information. And we've had some really significant conversations that have made me be like, okay, I can see that makes sense. And then same when asked my view, well, this is what I'm concerned about. And they understand. And it's like, if we can only find that balance, but I
Right.
don't want anybody to feel that they need to be, there are certain people that are very comfortable being out there and voicing all the things that they feel, and they know that they're going to be attacked for it, but they
Mm-hmm.
still do it. And that's fine with them. But for me, if I was to open up that door, I would be doing more harm to myself
Mm-hmm.
than good. So I'd rather, and I hope our audience members feel the same way, that if they're not necessarily speaking up, there's other things that you can do to help a situation. And and that's not being, you're not being complacent, you're not allowing things to happen that you're not comfortable with just because you're not screaming the way you feel.
Right. No, I understand that. And one of the things that I think I wrestle with these days, not so much so in regards to the political landscape in the country, my feeling is this. I have two sort of sayings. Number one is I just have to relax with what is. I
Hmm.
mean, it is what it is at and I hate that saying, but I'm just sort of relaxing with what is. I am doing the best I can, and that's all I can ever ask for myself or the people in my life is just do the best you can. And my mother used to say this all the time, and I used to like it drove me crazy. And then I saw this interview one time with Tom Hanks, and he just had the same exact saying as my mother. Of course, it landed better when it was coming from Tom Hanks than it did my mother when I was growing up. But it is a saying that if you really stop and let it like melt into you, it makes so much sense. This too shall pass.
Oh, this too shall pass is my favorite. It will.
It's like, if you just don't give it any fuel,
Mhm.
this too shall pass.
Yeah, I say that frequently and it does pass. And it's like the other thing that is so important for me in my practice is staying present in the moment and just being like, listen, what's going to happen is going to happen. And so,
Hmm.
but let's just stay focused in this very minute. The past is done. Let's stay in the present and,
Right.
really understand the power of that and just be here now.
Hmm.
And yeah,
Yeah,
and it
agreed.
shall pass. Yeah.
The other, I think, thing I wrestle with that's going on is, which makes me very uncomfortable, is this major, what I consider major anti-Semitic movement in this country and around the world. And again, I am not this big Jew on the hill shouting from the hilltops that I'm Jewish and this is wrong and all these other things, but it what I can control is being proud of where I came from, right? And I can't stop a war,
Yeah.
but if somebody asks my opinion, I bring them back to my grandmother coming to this country thinking it was the best country in the world and crossing a border of a country in the middle of the night at 12 years old and just saying how shameful it is that we have not made any progress, but
Well, and I need to ask you a question because I may remember this or I may have made it up in my brain, but she was part of a concentration camp, wasn't she?
she was not. She actually escaped. So
Did somebody in your family have the tattoo?
no,
Oh,
mm-mm,
okay. So I did.
no.
I made that, completely made that up.
Maybe my great grandmother, but I don't think so.
Okay.
But she had passed before I was born. I think she passed away when my brother was like a year old. No, but prior to the concentration camps and the war really, you know, the Nazis, the pogroms were coming into these countries and starting to, pull the Jews out and, and things like
Was that
that. So no, she was not because it was far before that she and her mother and her sisters were able to escape.
okay? Okay. All right. So she
Um,
came to the United States, yeah, and
when she was like, I don't know, 12 or 14-ish. I do know that she, hid in somebody's basement
mhm.
for a while before she was able to go
Wow.
from Russia into Poland and then Poland to this country.
Mm.
Um,
So you
so
share your heritage with somebody and kind of
yes, and I'm proud of my heritage, and I think that's not being silent,
right, right.
but I can't stop a war. All I can do is whatever, like we said, whatever is in my circle of control, that if there is somebody sitting at my dinner table or having a conversation, or I hear somebody make an anti-Semitic comment or a joke, I feel as though it is my duty to speak up and say that I'm offended, or
Yes.
say that, let me kind of set the record straight here.
Yeah.
Um, so that is within my circle of control. And I consider that not being silent,
Right.
but I'm not shouting from the mountaintop.
Right. Right. Right.
So I think, what we're speaking about is find your voice. Find your voice in the sense that find what you're comfortable voicing.
Mhm.
Don't shy away from your beliefs, your opinions. Um, but you could be shouting and talking to people like this person at your hair salon that isn't that you're not they're not listening.
Yeah.
Like if I can say something in response to somebody else, chances are they're listening more than me just lecturing,
Right.
right? And
Ah,
so, and here's the thing, it's one step at a time. If you can enlighten one person, and then that person enlightens another person, and,
yeah. And it doesn't have to be, um, if you can just make one person feel good and loved in a day, that's all.
correct, correct,
Because if
correct.
I'll tell
And
you, if I was on the opposite end of what this woman, what her political reviews, I would have been if she was, I would have been really like, this is not cool. I do not want to hear your feelings on all the things. I
yeah,
wouldn't. I mean, it just happened to be that her and I were aligned in our thoughts, but so I was okay. I was like,
yeah.
I wasn't participating in the conversation, but I could hear her and but if we were not, that would have been really hard for me to sit through. So you
I
got to,
even think that when people aren't aligned, though, I just think it's an overstep.
yeah.
Even if I am aligned with what this person is lecturing people
Yeah,
about, I still think it is an overstep. I still
great.
think it's beyond.
Yeah, agreed. And yeah, and again, like sometimes okay, say we weren't aligned. Like I still don't think I would have been able to stand up and say something. And I don't know, because I'm just not confrontational. I I I would have left and probably, maybe not go back or something. I don't know. But is that right or is that wrong? Like I don't know. I just don't want to add fuel to the fires that are going on out there.
I think what I would have done, honestly, and maybe this is a cowardly way to, I would have, when I was checking out, I would have said something to receptionist or found the manager and say, I just want to let you know that I will be back because I love how so and so did my hair. I said, but I want you to know that the person next to her needs to not talk about politics. This is
I
not
don't
the
even
environment,
I don't
or
even know
something like that.
if I could do that because I feel like, oh, next time I come in, she's gonna know I said something. Like I know it's terrible. I should have
Well,
more.
it's not terrible. It is valuing your inner peace and
Yes,
knowing
it is.
what you have control over. And it, it's really as simple as that. It's not terrible. It's not good. It's not bad. It's just who you are, and you have, it's what is in your circle of control. And what we mean about that is, so you have things that you truly can control. Mostly it is your reaction to things,
Mhm.
you know. And then there's all this other stuff that you have no control over. And what disrupts inner peace is A, you thinking you have control over all these other things, and B, trying to control these other
Right,
things that just
right.
make you, you know, uneasy, anxious. For me, when I'm trying to control something that is completely out of my control, I feel it in my physical body. I
Oh
get
yeah.
tight, I get headaches, my face hurts, like the whole thing. And it's,
Her face hurts. That's funny.
well, yeah, and because it comes from my neck. And so yeah, I mean and so I just really, in this time of such black and white and so many steadfast opinions and I'm right and you're wrong. Um, I have really dialed in and have been doing a tremendous amount of work lately, just staying within my circle of control.
So outside of the circle of control is your circle of concern. And those are all the things that you're concerned about. And you can lose your mind with the amount of things that you're concerned about on a daily
Yeah.
basis, anyways, right? So
I think everybody at this point could lose their mind. There's so much to be concerned
concerned
about.
about, right? And it's not just, I mean, I can whatever. It's like it's not just like the political landscape or the environmental stuff. It's like that you can concern yourself with anything. So the circle,
Anything and everything.
and that's why it's so important to stay in your circle of control because there's things that that you're concerned about that you can control. And so, but there's things that you can be concerned about and you have zero control over it. So you got to stay in your circle of control. And
Hmm. And
I,
those, I think those are the things, the concerning things around out right outside your,
yeah,
that bigger circle right outside your circle of control. Those things you can, try and relax with what is, or know that those concerns, this too shall pass,
yeah. And guess what? The
and the
good,
more fuel you give it, they become, the concerns become larger only in your mind.
yeah. And here's the other thing, like this too shall pass is for not only hard times, but for good times too. And every
Agreed.
time we go through any kind of cycle like that, whether it's like there are always opportunities for us to ascend, to a different realm
Hmm.
and growth and spiritual growth and emotional growth and physical growth. You cannot stay stagnant. And all of this conversation about when to react, when to speak up, what to say, what to do, that's all part, for me anyways, of my uh intellectual growth and my
Correct.
emotional growth.
Yeah,
Because these are days, we're constantly being tested and growing from whatever we learn.
agree. 100% agree. I do agree with that. Um,
So I just, if any of our listeners have been kind of struggling with this, that's where I come from.
yeah,
It's
and you know what? I mean, we'd love to hear from people. I mean, we would love to hear, what your struggles are, or what your joyous moments are, or how you've taken something that you're really trying to work on and employed it into a situation and see, we love actually examples of how the universe works, which is phenomenal.
oh, so
Um,
cool.
but it's just I think you hit it on the head, is if we can just infuse non-judgmental kindness and love into one person every day, it would just exponentially fan out and allow greater grace with
Mhm.
everybody.
Yes.
And I have used this so many times, and I think it's pretty poignant for this moment or this conversation, is we're just walking each other home.
Yeah, we're just here to walk each other home.
Yeah, like without judgment, or without um me being right and you being wrong,
Yeah.
you know?
Because, remember when they did that thing on Facebook a while ago with that dress? What color
Yes.
was the dress?
Yes. Yes. Blue or gold or something like that.
Yeah, right. And like you can't convince somebody that they're seeing something that they're not. And
Correct.
just going through life, everybody, we our first of all, our egos drive us. So, and our egos are created from what we learned growing up and situations that we've been in and this and that. And so we're simply just reflecting on what we know,
Yeah.
what we've
Mm-hmm.
been taught or what, things that we know. And another person has a completely different way of looking at something.
Correct.
And it's just,
Correct.
and I say this to some of I say this to people who have loved ones that are suffering from substance use disorder. And they're like, why can't they just stop? Why can't they just stop? Why can't they just stop? And I say, you're asking somebody who's, you're asking them to be 2 inches taller than they are. You can't do it. You cannot make somebody 2 inches taller than they are.
Mm.
It's impossible what you're asking of them.
Yeah.
So stop it, and show them
Relax with what is.
exactly, and then and show them that, you give them grace and understand that they're fighting a disease right now, and it's frustrating as hell because of the situation, but it's like they're not, you're asking something that, and that's the same way with different opinions. You're asking somebody to see something that they are simply not capable of seeing.
And there's never, ever people inside your circle of control, other people. Never.
Yeah,
You may be concerned about them,
yeah.
concerned about their behavior, their self-destructive behavior, whatever the case may be, but
You cannot control.
never. Agreed. You can control your reaction to it. And
Right.
oftentimes, the reaction is necessary, but
Yeah,
not necessary. Sometimes the reaction is, I think what it is you can't attach an outcome to the
right.
reaction in the sense that, well, if I react like this, then this concern's going to go away.
Yeah.
No.
No. The circle of concern is going to grow larger.
Mm-hmm.
But you know
Yeah.
what? We should talk about this on our next episode.
Yes. 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 Yes.
Let's do that.
Love you dearly. So listen, listeners, we'd love to hear from you. Rewind and reflect with us at gmail.com. The and is spelled out. And till next time.
Namaste, everybody. Love you.
Namaste. Love you.